Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us once again to celebrate 25 years of Raising Heroes in Jamaica. My name is Kamika Clark, and I'm the agency director here in Jamaica, and I'm proud to have been a beneficiary of an education savings plan and to be working with our amazing team to bring you the solutions to the challenges of the cost of funding your children's tertiary education. In honor of our 25th anniversary, we've launched this 5-part web series designed to help us learn from the journeys of our 5 outstanding beneficiaries, our young heroes, and gain some insight from experts as to how we as parents can raise the next generation of heroes. I'm a mother of 2 boys, and already I've learned so much from our guests in the first 2 episodes. So I encourage you to catch up on Facebook or our YouTube channel. And make sure as you watch to click in the comments to access our free downloadable guide of resources and share with your networks. Part 1 has great free learning tools, and part 2 is going to include tips from all of our experts. Also, just keep an eye out during the program for the special code to enter to win a Samsung tablet. Tonight, we're going to be talking about mindset and mental health. As a yoga lover, I'm really looking forward to learning from Trishan Houghton, an advanced teacher of therapeutic yoga, about ways that we can nurture our children's minds and spirits as frustrations rise. We'll also talk with Dr. Karen Carpenter, a licensed psychologist, about how we can care for our own mental well-being so that we can be there for our children during these challenging times. At the core of our success is a team of committed sales representatives who work hard to do the best for their subscribers. Throughout the series, we'll be sharing with you some memorable moments from our longest serving team members. Today, we're going to start off with a moment from Patricia Duncan, a member of our administrative team. Okay, let's not start off with that, but instead, let's start off by getting to know one of our outstanding beneficiaries, Timothy Winter. You can't underestimate the value of simply believing in your children and realizing their potential from a young age. As we feature our own beneficiaries and hear from their extraordinary parents, we're learning so much, and this is highlighted again and again. Tonight's guest, Timothy Winter, is an example of this. From a young age, Timothy's parents knew that he was destined to do great things. As an educator, his mother wanted to ensure that her son had every option available to him, and so she and her husband made the decision to start a Heritage Education Savings Plan in his name. His grandfather, Prof. Winter, a member of the Heritage Advisory Board at the time, also knew the benefits of having access to a good education and opened a plan on his behalf. Their faith in him was well placed, as he not only excelled in swimming, going as far as representing Jamaica in the Olympics in backstroke, but he also has his sights set on a career in medicine, graduating magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Science in Health, Promotion and Disease Prevention Studies from the University of Southern California. He's currently working in California as a research associate with COVID patients to find treatment options with a goal of minimizing hospitalizations. It's such important work. And we're so proud that he is a part of the Heritage family and delighted to have him here to share with you his story, and also Dr. and Mrs. Winter as well. So I really want to thank you for joining us tonight, Timothy. Thank you for making the time to be here, and to both of you. Unlike most of your peers who enjoy being on social media, I was really surprised that this wasn't the case for you. I'm going to start off by asking, can you tell us why you made the decision not to be on social media?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And second of all, I know it is kind of weird as a young 20-year-old to not be on social media, but I remember after graduating boarding school, I decided to take a gap year and I'd be focusing on my swimming. And a lot of my friends were going off to their first year of college. And I just knew, like, at that time I had Facebook and Snapchat. I knew I'd be comparing my gap year experience to their freshman year of college, and it'd be pretty different. So I thought for my own mental health, it'd be best if I stay off of social media. And I haven't had Facebook since. I downloaded Snapchat and Instagram for a little bit, but I'm definitely not a social media person. And I think it's in part like playing a big role in my mental health overall, where I'm not comparing myself to my peers, and I know I enjoy it. It's kind of freeing not to be on social media.
It's funny, I can see the light in your eyes, because I think sometimes we feel bogged down by it and pressured by it. And it's interesting that you mentioned the importance of caring for your mental health. I know I had some conversations with your mom, and she said over and over again, it took so much mental toughness to make it as far as you did in swimming, working hard to qualify for the Olympics at a young age, at the age of 14, and just missing the mark, and then ultimately representing Jamaica in Rio. How do you personally keep yourself motivated when things become challenging?
I remember 2012 pretty vividly of just being a young kid and trying to go to the Olympics, and I was like, oh wow, I have a chance of doing that and missing the mark. And I wouldn't say I was very upset about it because I was just happy that summer to like still be swimming best times and all of that. And over the next 4 years where I was trying for the next Olympic cycle, it was definitely mentally tough because I wasn't always improving. I wasn't having huge growth spurts and all of that. So it does take a lot of mental toughness, but I think it's in part intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation where I myself wanted to go to the Olympics, but I also had a lot of backing behind me. Like I had my parents' support, my sibling, my whole entire family, my swim club, all my coaches, my teammates as well. So I think in part it's like, yes, I had my motivation. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I wanted to qualify, but I definitely had a huge support network around me as well.
Yeah, wow. And I know it must not have been easy. I mean, I think about last week when I had to force my 9-year-old to go in the pool in the rain. It's really tough when you might not want to do something. How do you make yourself, go to practice and study and do all of those things when it might feel like it's too much?
I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got, at least looking towards the Olympics, was that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Oh,
In the sense that I totally relate to the rainy, like cold mornings of like I don't want to be up at like 4:30 in the morning, and my parents can definitely speak to like having to wake me up at 4:30 in the morning and us bickering because I just don't want to go. But I think it has to do with like setting a long-term goal of like maybe it's not the Olympics, but I want to drop 5 seconds in the 100 back. Like that's a personal like personal time best that I want to go.
mhm.
And that's what I'm working towards every day at practice. And that's really important. But also when I get to practice, setting short-term goals of like, okay, I want to drop some time, but today, what am I going to work on? Am I going to work on my flip turn? So it's both having short-term goals and long-term goals together.
Together. Okay, that's helpful. I don't know if it'll work yet. I hope he's watching and making notes, but I think it'll make a little bit of a difference as it relates to getting in the pool. His argument is, but Mom, I already know how to swim. I don't need to do anymore. So I get it. But we talked about short and long-term goals. You're doing so many things right now, especially with your work with COVID patients, and we know that you're planning to further your career in the medical field. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, hopefully, I have a medical degree and I will be a practicing physician and maybe even a physician scientist where I can use my research background and like still do a few research studies. So that's where I hopefully will be in 10 years. But I agree that it is often like hard to like have like you feel like you're juggling. You have so many things to do, like work, swimming, going to classes, keeping up with schoolwork, like your social life. And I definitely
Mhm.
don't think any of those really have to give at all. Like I think someone can be super successful and do everything. Like you can have a great family life, social life, swimming life, school life. Some days it might not feel like that, and I totally agree and I totally relate. But it's just looking for the small things that bring you joy in all of them. Whether it's with swimming, I hate jumping into the cold water first thing in the morning, but I love talking to my friends after a long hard set. So that little spark of joy will like get you to practice and get you to doing a lot of things in a little bit of time.
I get it. I get it. Okay. That helps to clear it up a little bit, those little small bursts of goals. And the long term, I know you're going to make a huge difference in society in terms of your own medical practice or your research. Tell me, I'm going to turn to Dr. and Mrs. Winter right now. As parents, what kind of advice would you give to parents who want to support and encourage their children to achieve their full potential?
I think each child has a special gift, And we as parents have to encourage that gift to explore all the options, all the opportunities, see what they gravitate to, and just be there for them at all times.
I know when we spoke, I expected a longer answer than that, Mrs. Winter, because we have spoken for a very long time on the phone. I know you described trying everything, you know, and seeing that little sparks of light sort of shone, or others identifying things that perhaps you didn't see. So it was really inspiring for me to hear that and to know that he might not necessarily like swimming, but there might be some potential there in the long term.
Yeah.
Let me ask you also, you know, we are here because of Heritage, but I'd love to understand perhaps what factor you think Heritage may have played in Timothy's outcomes today.
Well, I think Heritage was instrumental in assisting us to get Timothy to where he wanted to go. I'm sure we certainly agree that in modern times of university, tertiary education is the gateway to a successful, happy, prosperous future for any person. So, you know, if you're raising your little hero, I think it's imperative that you think about it. It's certainly very expensive. Even our local university, you know, the fees are very high, and our exchange rate is good. And saving in foreign exchange is the way to go. And Heritage certainly allowed us to show Timothy, you know, whatever option you choose, you know, we're happy, we're here to support you, and you go for it.
Yeah, it must be pretty awesome to have parents who just really worked hard to support you every step of the way. It sounds like you have a huge fan club in your mom and dad.
I definitely agree. I can't thank them enough for just supporting all of my goals, like letting me be an energetic kid that wanted to explore swimming and water polo and track and field and kind of do anything I want. I'm definitely fortunate in that situation.
That's incredible. Anything you would say as a child now grown up that you would say this is what you as a parent should do to help your child achieve their potential?
I definitely agree with what you guys have said of just letting your child be curious and explore, and like maybe today their goal is to be like the next biggest artist, and next week they want to do piano, and just encourage them like being able to like set goals and like work towards it. And maybe one day like they really aren't, like for me in like swimming, I was not the best swimmer as a kid at all. I kind of grew into it as probably one of the slower kids until I was probably about 13, and just having a support network where my parents are like, it's okay if you don't win every race, just try and enjoy it every day. I think that's what I would hope to instill in my children. It's not winning every race, it's enjoying the outcome. Enjoying
the outcome. Yeah, and doing your best. And it sounds like you've definitely done that. Excelling both in the pool and in academics. And we're excited to see what comes next for you, Timothy. I really appreciate you sharing your story and your time with us. There's so much more that I'd love to ask you, but I also know that we have a lot of things to cover as well today. I'm going to take a moment though to say a big thank you. And we have this special token of our appreciation for you. This is a piece by Everett Palmer. I love his work, and I'm going to make sure we deliver this personally to your mom in the coming weeks so that she can keep it safely until you're able to come home. And we hope you'll put it somewhere special in the meantime. So thanks again to all three of you, Tim especially, for juggling your time to be here, Dr. and Mrs. Winter. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Yes.
Good night. And for those of you who are new to Heritage, we've asked our VP of Sales and Distribution, Dylan Frost, to give you a little taste of what we're all about. Dylan?
Thanks, Kamika. Good evening, everybody out there in Cyberland. Dylan Frost, Vice President of Sales and Distribution with Heritage Education Funds from my home office in Mississauga, Ontario, which is an outskirt of Toronto, Canada. It's probably a lot cooler here this evening than it is for most of you who are watching tonight. But just a few moments to provide a little bit of background and information about Heritage Education Funds. We're very proud to be celebrating 25 years in Jamaica. And Heritage assists parents and grandparents to save in US dollars toward their children's post-secondary studies. In the year that the child turns 18, Heritage returns all of the savings, less fees, to the subscriber, who is a person or persons who are contributing. And then in their second, third, and fourth years of university or college, the foundation pays what we call education assistance payments or scholarships in US dollars directly to the students to assist in offsetting the cost of their studies. So their tuition, their books, their computers, room and board, those sorts of things. We provide our subscribers with a structured savings plan that offers a lower risk while partnering with reputable investment managers to maximize returns for our customers. We're very proud to have been the first company in Jamaica to offer a dedicated post-secondary education savings plan, and being a part of this amazing journey assisting thousands of families over the last 25 years has been truly rewarding for all of us. Since the inception of our plan in Jamaica, we've returned over 57 million US dollars in savings, as well as education assistance payments to Jamaican families. So that's 57 US million dollars and counting. A message to our subscribers: thank you for the confidence that you have placed in us. We look forward to the years ahead of working with you to prepare for your children's future education. Kamika and the rest of the team in Jamaica, on behalf of the entire management team here in Canada, I just want to say many thanks for your efforts over the years, and we look forward to continued success into the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dylan. We really appreciate you sharing tonight, and thanks for your shout outs. I'm going to cut to actually a member of our team. Thanks are so important, and this is a memorable moment from Patricia Duncan. I don't know if we can make that happen now. Oh, let's go to Loy Alexander instead. Here, and thank you, Dylan, for joining us. It's my pleasure to transition us into one of our experts, our specialists tonight. We're joined tonight by Trishan Houghton, who spent the last decade passionately exploring the interplay between mind and body and the healing of the whole person. As the director of Yoga Dispensary and an advanced teacher of therapeutic yoga, she uses the time-tested tools of yoga to alleviate physical and mental health conditions, to inspire deep self-care and promote the overall well-being of the whole person. Doesn't it just sound like we need that right now? Her colorful journey as a sole parent of a radiant 9-year-old, whom we'll actually get to meet this evening, has inspired much of her work as such as the Mindfulness Academy, JA, and her special programs and offerings such as Nurturer of Mothers and Women. We are so pleased that she could join us tonight to share ways parents and children can properly regulate their emotions, as well as go through the challenges of this year. We know that the guidance she'll bring tonight will also equip us to handle new challenges as we aim to foster emotional growth in ourselves and in our children. So thanks again for making the time tonight. We're all about learning and growing together, Trishan, and I'd love to know more about what therapeutic yoga is and some of the benefits of it.
Hi, so thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you.
So therapeutic yoga or yoga therapy is basically using, as you said, the tools of yoga, which have been absolutely tested and tried over centuries, and using those tools to facilitate mental, physical, emotional well-being of the whole person, right? One of my favorite things about yoga therapy is that it is in and of itself a very empowering system, because it believes that you know what's going on with you, and you probably need some guidance to get to your best health. And I mean, that's just fabulous for me.
Okay, so it's about using myself to figure out where I'm going, or understanding the way to good health. As a single parent, I'm imagining, who undoubtedly relies on her community for support, how have you been handling the restrictions with physical interactions?
Have I been handling the restrictions? No, really, I have. Well, we have the usual stuff, the video calls, and I think it's a great time for pen pals, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly, because now they don't have to be abroad, right? They could just be in another parish or something. Pets have been very helpful. We have more cats than I care to share at this point, and that's happened since COVID.
Okay.
And I would say that I have made a special effort, which is not easy if you're a solo parent, but I've made a special effort to give her special kind of attention. The fact is that the way we spend time with our kids is now going to look a little different from what it used to, not just in terms of the amount of time, but the way that you're listening and paying attention to what's going on. So I really make an effort to, for example, we used to have movie nights once a week on a Friday night. Now we don't do that so much because who needs more screen time with, on top of screen time, on top of screen time. Now we'll, go outside and play something, or we'll play card games, or, different things that are more engaging. I'll read to her a lot more and different books than I used to. And she doesn't need me to read to her. And I had stopped doing it for a while, but now I just find that anything that allows us to connect, and she's a touchy-feely kind of child. So we lie together, we read, and it's less about the story and more about us just being together there. And so, and I would also say that I have accepted that this is going to be a challenging time and that it is going to require so much more of me. And I'm saying this, and I think it's taken for granted. We all know it's kind of rough on parents right now, whether you're a solo parent or not. But I do believe that if you really accept and internalize this, not just know it, but accept that this is the case, then some of the resistance and some of the rough edges kind of come off of it, and you're able to then move forward equipped with the fact that I'm actually going to be stressed, so I can put things in place. More is now being required of me, so I'm gonna do this, and this thing, right? And that understanding and acceptance has allowed me to put the systems in place that will, turn me into a superhero at this point, really, so that I can support her.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
So acknowledging that it is going to be a tough time and being okay with that. And I guess that's the challenge, is that I think we're all second guessing ourselves and feeling like we're not going to be good enough. We're not doing it well enough. We should be doing more. I know I should be doing more. But so I guess there's some silver lining, in terms of spending more time and that kinds of thing. And I guess one good thing is that hopefully we'll be able to be more in tune with our children. But how can you give us some ideas as to how perhaps we could identify where something is wrong and just help us maybe guide them through the struggles in a gentle way?
Sure, but I definitely have to speak to the idea that we aren't doing enough. I really, really, really think that, and it will lead into the rest of points. I think we have to get clear about what's important, right? And get clear about you're not at work, you're not a manager, you're a parent. And so deliverables and achieving is less important than connecting. And I want to say it again.
Say it again.
Okay, so the deliverables, how they're doing at school, whether or not they're keeping up, the chores, all the things that we have on that to-do list that we have, they're less important than connecting with the kids. And I really, really, if you get up every day, write it on something and say it to yourself until it soaks in, because it will become a vision that pulls you forward, and allows you then it will inform your actions. So you won't, if you have only an hour to spend, because of course you're working and doing all these things, you won't spend the hour fussing about this homework or fussing about a chore that wasn't done. You know what I mean? You'll spend the hour kind of checking in. with that being said, how can we know what's, some stuff that's wrong? So I'm not a psychologist, and I'm sure we've heard repeatedly some of the usual suspects that indicate something is going on, like regression, when we see our kids kind of acting, and I had this situation, they're kind of whining or acting like babies, wanting to sit in your lap, these different kinds of things. We have things like becoming more withdrawn, and we see this with the adolescents, teenagers especially. But what I want to bring to your attention that you won't find on Google is it's those physical, tangible things, because the body holds a lot of information, right? And so I encourage parents to pay attention to, is your kid, what's their posture like? Are they slumping down and closing off? Yeah. Is their chin jutting out because they're on the device 24/7? This is something really important, because in the long run, you're not gonna like the consequences of that. Is their skin and hair dry? What happens with their bathroom stuff? What's going on there? What color is it? There's some physical things that that give you a whole lot of information. What are they dreaming about? What are their thoughts? And it gives you a whole lot of information about what's actually on their mind, and will tell you when something is wrong. If your kid is telling you, a little girl was sharing with me, or I heard a little girl speaking to her mom and telling her mom that she dreamt that she was drowning, right? Which, exactly. You feel the feeling of just listening to that. So you can imagine her own experience. That gives you a lot of information. So to just kind of zone in, are they having aches and pains that don't quite come from anywhere? Some of that might be a bid for your attention, as well as some of that might be somatic pains that arise because of emotional stuff that's going on. The tummy ache, weird joint pains, a big toe that's just randomly hurting. This
You've been in my house?
I don't know, that big toe is pretty popular. I don't know. Things like how they're sleeping is also, important. I find my dog needs more sleep than she used to. And we have to really be okay with that. See the child that's in front of you. See the child that's in front of you, as opposed to who you want them to be at this time, as opposed to what the articles have told you they need to be. Just really look at what's before you. And especially if you have more than one kid, recognize that they might not look the same. So maybe now your kid does need more sleep. Maybe they need less sleep. You know what I mean? Just tune into that. In terms of the solutions for the problems that arise, it's something, one of the things that I really would love for parents to kind of recognize I want you to take measures against the fact that our device time has increased exponentially. Yeah. And not talk about it, just do the things that are easiest for you. Get a blue screen filter. This is important, because the blue screen impacts sleep, okay? And that's for everybody. You don't have to be this conspiracy theory, it is fact. So get the filter and just check in on the ways that you can mitigate against that, including, they tell you different things, look away from the screen. So have the kids, I set a timer on my daughter's thing. She sees it pops up, she knows it's time she does a blink, you blink your eyes. Oh. Separately, yeah, and then you look away. This is helpful not just for the eyes, but again, it just to give you a break sometimes in terms of posturally, and then to ensure that you're not using the device beyond a certain time. Kids, it's better if they have a break before bed so they can wind down, because it does get you. It's very stimulating, right? Yeah. The other thing, aside from that, is just what they're ingesting, their diet, and not just in terms of food, but food is important. But to look at think of it from the perspective of their senses. You know, what are they taking in with their eyes, their ears, their mouths, everything? And if you look at it that way, it will allow you to see, well, what are your kids in a bunch of clutter all the time? In your house, you know, what is the general mood in your home? What's the vibe there? Are you guys always speaking loudly to each other and, you know, with a sharpness in your tone? What is it that he or she is literally feeling? You know, what are the textures that surround you? And if we begin to tune into that, we will definitely, it's kind of a, you know, you would have improved the environment without having to hire anybody to do anything. This is pretty basic. What do you ingest in your senses? And in terms of the actual diet, so one of the tenets of yoga therapy is Ayurveda, and Ayurveda speaks to the qualities of things and the qualities of people. So when you think of diet, I'd love for people to think of the qualities. So for example, if your kid has been lethargic and kind of heavy, then you want to feed them in a way that is light, you know, less beef and yam and bananas, more salads and fruits, right? And literally lighten things up. And obviously the converse is true. If they're kind of light and airy fairy and, you know, like almost taking off like a rocket all the time, then you kind of want to ground them with grounding stuff. Yeah. So if we begin to think in terms of qualities, you know, is their skin looking dry along with their hair? Is their tongue looking white? These kinds of things, just look at it in terms of qualities rather than, you don't have to be an expert per se. You just have to pay close attention and know, well, this is what it was before, and I see that something's happening now, you know, and just kind of begin to tune into that. Aside from what we're ingesting, there's also a kind of, so I spoke about the environment, what we're ingesting, and the routines. So everybody keeps talking, especially during COVID, everybody kept on talking about how important it was to have your routine. This is true. However, I would like to say that different people need different kinds of routines, okay? So if you have a kid that needs to be a little bit more grounded, then you can be more specific with your routine and more, you know, kind of detailed with your routine. You may have a kid that doesn't necessarily thrive with that, that is actually stifled by that. Yeah. So then you make it broader. We know what time we wake up, what time we have meals, and what time we go to bed. And then everything in between is a little less rigid, right? So I encourage you, as with everything I'm sharing, to be individualized and cater it to the child that's before you. And that does include, for sure, the routine. The next thing, get in nature. It has its own healing 150% of the time. And especially for those of us in Jamaica, guys who have been like those millions of days without sunshine. Listen, seasonal affective disorder is real for us this year, okay? It does affect your mood. I'm sure we felt it. And the same is true for kids. You know, even those who like the rain, it was a bit much, right? And they were stuck indoors and there was no sunshine and all that stuff. Sunshine, flowers, the smell of nature, even the breeze on your skin, all these things are healing and important, right? And you can use it as an opportunity to do the final thing, and that is to move and breathe. Extra important for kids who are no longer going out. They have this energy, they have these emotions that we need to move through them. They need to be moved out of the body, okay? And so because they're no longer on the playground where they can kind of just do all the madness they do, they swing, they jump, they hop. I mean, who has emotional problems with all that much releasing, you know? Now that that's not happening, it's really important to have movement daily. They're not adults who get used to having stuff stuck. They need movement daily. Dancing is one of the things that my daughter and I do. We just put on some music, dance. Simple, easy. I love that option, especially if you're a solo parent, nothing too complicated. The other thing, Maggie? Okay, she has in her headphones now, Leah. You're up, kid, let's go. So the other thing is to shake. I'm gonna show you easy breezy ways. We're gonna start with the shake. So come standing here. And if you guys have your kids at home and they're not yet in bed, you can definitely join. It's pretty easy. So we do this especially if they have experienced something like yesterday, for example, we had a close call with a grasshopper and she was petrified. And this gets stored in the body, okay? The same is true if there's something, an overly emotional or traumatic event that's happened in the family or anything like that, okay? So you want to move that out the body. So we're gonna just do the easy shake, which is literally as it says. So you're ready? So here we go. I hope that everybody can see. So we just start with one hand at a time, the shoulders. And we shake. Literally, so keep the legs relatively apart. Shake the hands all the way down to the wrist. Yep, and then begin to shake the whole body. Shake the legs out, one at a time. And they get excited and they love doing this. It's pretty easy, it's pretty fun, and it's good for you as well. And I tend to decide on how intense the shaking needs to be based on what has happened. What am I shaking out? Okay, so, all right, you're good now. All right, so if as I said, if something major has happened, then just let them shake it out. And that's the bigger the shake, the better. All right, so come to lying here. Lie on your back. Lie on your back. So one of the things that go for it, baby. One of the things that, one of the places that both adults and children hold a lot of tension in the body is in the psoas, and it's a big muscle that pretty much it connects parts of the upper body and lower body, right? To keep it simple. So whenever it is taut, it basically sends messages to the brain that, hey, we're under stress. And so it's a good one to release all the time. So first we take a big stretch the whole body out. Here it comes. Push. Jump up for a sec, lie down this way. Come this way. So stretch the whole body out. Nope. Okay, then bend the knees. We're gonna bend the knees. All right, and we're just gonna windshield wiper the legs from left to right. And slow it down. Left to right. And if you notice, I'm not just moving her because we're on the video, I'm actually touching her because parent touch is great. It's very soothing, or it can be very soothing, especially if you're deliberate about that. All right, so it's good to touch. So one of the other things that you can do is you can do this by the couch and just bring the legs up onto the couch like that. Okay, constructive rest. The whole family can do this together. We have a wild time doing this here. That we might be reading something, or we're just together connecting. Or she's kicking and climbing on me. All right, let's show them the breath. So we have 2 quick breaths. Come a little closer so they can see you. One is called the B breath, and the other is called, well, let's go with the B. No, not the A breath, the straw breath. So the B breath, the kids will cover their ears, yeah? And they're just gonna take a big inhale and exhale, making a humming sound. Because the ears are covered, it makes a nice sound on the inside and it's quite soothing. So let's cover our ears. Ready? And they can cover the eyes, or they can look out, all right? So big inhale and exhale. Inhale. Inhale. Come again, inhale and exhale. And you can do that for about 10 rounds. about 10 rounds. And then the other one, we do the straw breath. So you fold the tongue like a straw. And for those of you who can't do that, that's okay. Just make the mouth into an O, just like you're blowing or drinking from a straw. This is a soothing, cooling breath. And it's one that we do sometimes before bed. It helps to settle the kids. So we inhale through the mouth and exhale through the nose. Ready? Inhale through the mouth, through the nose. And again, you can do 10 rounds of that, preferably on their backs, 10 rounds, and you'll find that they just settle right down. And you can go more than that if they have the bandwidth. You stopped. And those are the two breaths that are pretty easy for all ages and great for all the kids, no matter what age.
Wow. I cannot believe you covered so much in such a short space of time. I feel like I have taken in so much information, and Party Zone Rentals JA, hopefully the internet can catch up so she can get whatever we've gotten. Just the breaths alone, I feel a certain amount of calm already. And what I really appreciate is that you didn't just focus on the movement, which is what I expected, and the breathing, but you gave us some other really important things to look at and to think about and to consider as signs and ways that we would help just shift things. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're so very welcome, guys. And definitely watch the video again. I tried to give you the easiest, most accessible stuff. No matter how busy you are, you can, like 2 minutes, and you can do any one of these things.
We will be doing those tonight. Thank you very much, Trishan. I really appreciate it. And thanks also to your daughter. Thank you, Maggie. We're so glad that you joined us.
Done. I'll let you.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thanks.
Wow, I just feel like I've just already taken in so much. And I know that there's so much more in terms of insight to come. Our second expert tonight is Dr. Karen Carpenter, who is the head of the Institute for Gender and Development Studies at the Mona unit at the University of the West Indies. She's also a licensed counseling psychologist in Jamaica and a Florida board certified sexologist. Dr. Carpenter is also the director of the Caribbean Sexuality Research Group Clinic at the University Hospital of the West Indies. But tonight we're actually going to focus on the first part of our work, which is psychology. So with the many challenges that we're facing and the numerous roles that parents have to balance, I know if you're anything like me, you might be feeling just a little bit burnt out. Tonight, Dr. Carpenter is going to be sharing with us ways that we as parents can care for ourselves, pour into our cup so that we can in turn pour into that for our children as we navigate the many changes this year. So Dr. Carpenter, thanks for being here today, this evening. It's often said that you cannot pour from an empty cup, but with parents currently juggling so many roles and being stretched so thin, how can we go about refilling our own?
Well, thank you for having me. I've been listening intently to all the wonderful advice we've been getting. So how to pour into your own cup so that you have something to pour back out. I think perhaps one of the first things that we have to remember is that parenting doesn't mean perfection. We're not required to be perfect. You're not required to get it absolutely right. And I'm sure if you ask your mom and dad, they'll tell you all the things they got wrong. So be a little bit easy on yourself. And especially if you're a first-time parent, this is your practice run. If you have 2 kids, well, then you've practiced on one, and you're getting a little bit better, and you're getting a little bit more relaxed. So cut yourself a little slack to begin with. Particularly in this, what I like to call returning to an old-fashioned family style. COVID as an impediment. But the precautions that we're taking have also returned us in many ways to family living as it used to be pre-industrial era. We're spending more time with our kids, more time with each other, more time intergenerationally. I know a lot of people who brought their parents back into the home the minute they were on lockdown because they couldn't care for them by traveling back and forth. Yeah. So it put us back in this intergenerational loop. And I think it's a time to sort of slow down. So my first advice is do less, do it well. So if you used to do 5 things, accomplish 5 big goals in a day, accomplish 3, but do them well. We really have to slow down a bit. And then to give yourself time, I'm going to suggest that if you're a couple, if you're parents who have a partner, that you're going to have to take at least 1 hour in the week for just the two of you. Even if that 1 hour is lying flat on the floor in your bedroom with the door closed, looking up at the ceiling, just 1 hour when it's just the two of you. It doesn't have to be a fancy date. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. It can be just that you go outside, get some fresh air, sit out, and just listen to, you know, Jamaicans call it the peeny wally, or the crickets,
Yes.
the fireflies. Just listen to the night noises and just spend an hour in that fresh air. Just the two of you.
No devices.
Yeah, we really have to get away from the kids so that we can give them back. I like to think, because I used to be a Montessori teacher, that was my first profession, and I used to say I'm going to school. I never said I was going to work. So for a very long time I was going to school. And one of the things we encourage kids and parents to do in Montessori is that we help children to become independent very early. If you're a parent who has 2 stories in your house and you need your kids to be able to get a snack, if you're able to, invest in a small fridge. They come in all sizes now, from the Servi bar that you get in the hotel to a tiny little one that looks like a microwave, and pre-prepare snacks for them that they can have in the morning. They can also help you to pre-prepare those snacks. So when the kids get up early in the morning and they want to disturb your sleep, they know that they can go and take out each of them their little snack, and perhaps they want to watch some cartoons or something, so that mommy and daddy can have that little moment, even if it's half an hour, to wake up slowly, to wake up gently, and to face the morning. You need time alone with each other. You also need to kind of do that volley. So if you're thinking of a relay, you know, you're going to hand the baton to the other person. You have to also provide some time for each of you to be away from each other.
Right.
Yet you have to be away from each other. Because in relationships, we say that the secure relationship is like the child who leaves home, says goodbye, goes off, has an adventure, and comes back and says, hey, guess what I saw? That's a secure relationship. But the child who's leaving home and looking back, constantly wondering, is mommy going to be away? Okay, is daddy going to be okay? Then that's not a secure relationship. So we need to have that time apart from each other. So we could give each other an hour where we're the primary babysitter, so that the other person can get some time just by themselves. And they don't have to be doing anything great. They don't have to be doing something momentous. They can just take some time to go chat with a girlfriend. Yeah. Or even go read a book. One of my favorite things, just having an hour to read a book. That's a real treat for me. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we want to do. I also, Kamika, want to caution us about making our children too fragile. This morning I decided to have a soft-boiled egg instead of a hard-boiled egg. And it was very fragile, that soft-boiled egg. It was delicious, but it was very fragile. We tend to not want to be entirely honest with our kids, and they know when we're not telling the truth. We just need to find that set of words that makes it palatable. It's okay for them to know that you're not feeling great. It's okay for them to know this is going to be a tough time for us. It's okay for them to know that your emotions are as important as theirs. That's how we develop emotional intelligence. By sharing what emotions are, what the labels are for the emotions, and what the descriptions are. So if we learn to send an I message that says, when you do A, B, or C, Mommy doesn't feel happy because it means I have to come and fix it again. Would you mind not doing A, B, or C? If we use our words, we teach children to use their words. But if we pretend that the world is made of porcelain and we protect them and we don't ever tell them when they're doing something wrong or when things are going badly, then when we're at our last, our nerves end, then we start screaming. We get frazzled and we take them. So it's really important to teach children give and take. And it has to be age appropriate, obviously. A very small child is not going to understand your feelings, but it's not long before kids understand. You'll see a 2-year-old come to you and go, Mommy's sad, Mommy's sad. They can see that. So little by little, we teach them to be reciprocal, to understand that sometimes they're sad, sometimes you're sad. Sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're tired. You can just play the tired mommy game. Just get them to sit with you and just do something simple. I tell people all the time, let's play the tired teacher game. Okay?
I like that it has a name. That's great.
So you can sit and watch them perform for you. They can dance, as our previous presenter said. They can sing. They can do whatever they want while you play the tired mommy game.
I love it. Love it.
Take a breather for 5 minutes and then say, okay, now what can we do? Yeah. So we really have to foster that emotional intelligence in children. They'll be better adults for it. They'll be more humane and they'll be more resilient because they'll recognize that you're not always up.
That it's okay to be down as well.
We've got into this notion where it has to be a sunshiny day all day long. That's not true. We experience many emotions and they all have a label. Teach children to label their emotions so that we can manage them better by being honest with yourself.
Yeah. So I hear you saying, don't shelter them. Make sure that we are communicating with them about what's happening and, allowing ourselves the space to feel things. So in return, then, what's the best way to kind of approach a child to find out how they're doing and converse when they're not okay? And this is maybe the thing that as a mom, I get a little bit scared of is when they say they're not okay, what do we do with that?
All right. So and that's coming out of a kindergarten teacher's experience of many years, kids may not have all the words. They don't have the vocabulary to tell us what they're feeling, but they draw real well. I used to do a lot of research with children's drawings. So when a child, and that's something we use in psychology, when a child says that they're not feeling well or something bad happened or I didn't like that, you say, can you draw it? So they may not have the words to tell you immediately, but give them some form of expression. And then they can show you the drawing and you can ask them to tell you about it. So who's this and who's this? And what is this person doing? And I find if we're in a hurry to get something done, if we're running out of time, slow down. If you're anxious about how the child is feeling, slow down. You get more done by slowing down and listening intently than by rushing ahead and solving a problem that doesn't exist.
Okay.
The child may have had a memory. They may have remembered something that they lost or someone that they lost, or they're thinking of grandma, or they're thinking of their friend or something like that. Give them space to express that. And that drawing becomes your little communication tool with the child. And they can come when you're playing the tired mommy game. You just flop down and you say to them, show me what you drew today. And they can tell you about their little stories. It's an amazing way to connect with children.
Yeah. And I guess part of maybe what I'm taking away, as you said, it's okay for us to be, as parents, to say that we're not okay and that we just need a break. In them saying it through pictures or words, I'm not okay, I'm not happy, things aren't going well. It's not necessarily our job to solve it. Is that?
No, not at all. You don't need to solve it. Kids are amazing. There's a book by Edward de Bono, a very wonderful philosopher and thinker, and it's called Children Solve Problems.
Okay.
And he gives them ridiculous problems and asks them to solve it. And one of them is, how do you weigh an elephant? And the children do drawings about how they're going to get a crane and pull up this elephant, and then they're going to do something. Children are great problem solvers. They just don't do it as quickly as we do. We have to learn to be patient with them. They can walk for miles, but you have to walk at their pace. They can do lots of things if we realize that they simply don't have our structure. They don't have our mind. So we have to go at their pace. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, which is just to slow down.
Slow down a little bit and enjoy the world a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
Of course, age appropriately. As a child gets older, it's going to be different language. For your teenager, I would say to my kids all the time, and I have grown kids now, I would say to them as teenagers, you know, use your words, which they learn from kindergarten. And I'd say to them, do you have a solution for that? When you have a problem and you present it to me, I'm going to ask you, do you have a solution for that? How would you solve it? And 9 out of 10 times they would have thought of the most elaborate solution that I wouldn't have come up with. I'd go like, okay, so what if we just did the second thing that you said? What if we solved it that way? So they realize that the problem is not so enormous. It's not so big, it's solvable. And I always say to them, when you come to me with a problem, bring at least 3 solutions. They don't have to be great. They don't have to be perfect. But you must come willing to solve that problem as an adolescent. Because now they have hypothetical thinking. They can think, what if? Which is different from your little 2 and 6-year-old. Very different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask one last question because my last question you've already answered, which is fantastic. Thank you. But I'm mindful of, you know, we've talked a lot about children who are perhaps school age and you know, that we can have dialogues with them. What would you say to mummies and daddies of babies? Because I remember the baby years were really hard. And you know, just the whole sleep and the lack of, and now you're quarantined or, you know, isolated. What would your advice be to those parents?
It's rough. And the thing is, we do have wonderful technology. Thank goodness for technology, because you have a baby monitor and you may have a baby camera, or you may have some way of watching the baby. Most times babies are not going to harm themselves unless there's an object to put in their mouths, because they take in the world through their senses. So if you leave something there in the crib or in the cot or the playpen, they're going to put it in their mouth. So we have to be careful about what we leave around for them. But otherwise, a child crying, if there's nothing wrong with them, if they're clean, if they're dry, if they're fed, it's not the end of the world. If they're in distress because they're alone, we know the cries. Mothers know the cries, yeah? We know that, I just need some attention cry. And we know that, that shriek that says, help. That something's wrong with me, right? Yeah. So often for parents, if you don't teach them very, very early how to go to sleep by themselves, you're going to suffer. So I believe in training them to sleep through the night. I really do believe in that. If you have your baby monitor and you can tiptoe into the room. I used to do it with every single one of my kids. Tiptoe into the room because you're panic stricken. Oh my God, I'm such a horrible mother. You look at them and they're okay. Leave them. Leave on the night light. They'll eventually go to sleep. And the first time they'll scream their heads off. The second time they'll scream for a little bit and they go and whimper to see if you're coming. And then the third night they'll sleep through the night. And that is a blessing to you and to the child.
And then you get your time.
Yeah, you're going to be up at 6 a.m. You're going to be up at 6 to take care of that baby.
Yeah.
So let them get a good night's sleep. And you feel refreshed when you see them in the morning.
Excellent.
Joy when you see them in the morning.
So I really, you've offered some amazing advice. And in our final episode, we will actually have Elena Diedrich Lynch will be joining us, who's really great at soothing and working with babies. So I really look forward to that conversation as well. But you mentioned the name of a children's book. I think it was Edward de Bono's book. What's the name of the book? Someone, Debbie, there's
It's so old. Children solve problems. It's hilarious. It's a great little read. And I should probably mention as well, Kamik, for the young baby, take a top that you've been wearing and put it in the cart with the baby. If you have an old-fashioned clock, I don't know if they exist anymore. Maybe they're a novelty item now. The one that goes tick, 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 tick. You wrap that clock in a piece of clothing or your blanket from your bed, something that will support the child. Leave it in the cot. It puts them to sleep because they can smell you and they think it's a heartbeat. And it's very soothing for them. Mm-hmm. So you always take bits of mommy's clothing and wrap either that warm water bottle or a clock so that baby feels comforted. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've given us some really practical advice as mums and dads of babies and as co-parents to really try and fill our cups in a very short space of time. I'm thinking of the flight attendant saying you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help anyone else. Absolutely. And I think you've given us some practical tools for doing that. Thank you so much. What a gift tonight has been. I really appreciate it, Dr. Carpenter. Thank you. Carolyn, you used to do that, mother of 4. I recognize that face. So yes, great advice endorsed by Mom of 4. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
And I just want to say, wow, I am so overwhelmed by what I've taken away tonight. And really just want to thank everyone for taking the time. I know it's a whole entire hour we've spent together, but I hope that you found something of value. I know I have. Thanks to our subscribers, first of all. You've been with us all these years. Thank you for joining us. I just want to remind you to please check your emails for details of an exclusive draw. We have 2 episodes remaining, so look right here for the next 2 Thursdays in November at 8 p.m. Not only are we going to be sharing great content, but you'll also have an opportunity to enter your name in our draw if you haven't already to win this Samsung tablet. Tune in for the next few nights, please. And you can enter the draw by clicking on the link below and entering tonight's code. Next Thursday, November 19th, we're going to be joined by John Joseph Nepal, who's a composer, producer, engineer, almost a jack of all trades, I guess, when it comes to music. We'll also be joined by Leisha Gay Taylor to talk about how to balance the work from home and school from home dynamic, because I know we're all struggling with it. I do on my work at home days. It's not easy. I'm going to invite you as well just to follow us on Facebook to learn more about our series, to be the first to access our downloadable parent resources. And as mentioned, in addition to sharing our favorite online resources, we're going to be compiling the resources from all of our experts. So if you missed anything, this will be a great way to get it all. Finally, I just want to say that this series is brought to you by Heritage Education Funds. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that you can start a Heritage plan or join our team by calling our office at 876-968-1601 or trying us on WhatsApp at 876-537-1648, and we'll connect you with a rep who can answer all of your questions. Let me say a final thank you for joining us, and just want you to stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week.